So, hello everyone. Today I will just show you how to win with the London system. So the first thing is to never start with d4 because if someone plays against you c5, you have to learn a lot of theory and sometimes you might actually lose the game. So that is why I would actually recommend you to start with knight f3 because now if your opponent goes for c5, you can actually play some d3 e4 setups, which means that you will actually play, other type of, London system, or you can actually start with e3 d4, and one day when black will take, you will take back with the e pawn, and then you will have your classical London setups. So that is the first thing. Of course, if you want to learn more, all the links of my books are in the description. Now, let's say knight f3, knight f6, logical. d4, now playing c5, you don't care. You just go c3 and you play a classical London, then you play, bishop f4, and it's very good. You can try e3, which is the call system, but it's not that good because the bishop is better once it's out. So let's assume that black goes for some d6, or some d5, just to keep it simple. Bishop f4, basically now your plan is to go knight bd2, knight e5, and knight f3, and thanks to the bishop and the pawn, you actually have a very nice knight on e5. What is it doing? So first, if you want to learn more, you can also go check out the other videos on my YouTube channel in which I analyzed a lot of games of Gukesh. He's basically the world leading expert in the London. Of course, Kamsky is also very good, but in every case, what you will do with the knight there is either start an attack on the king side, which is completely logical, since you will have so many pieces, on the king side, or you will actually start to attack in the center with some c4, and if the pawn takes back, you will be able to take with the knight. So now that you have all the middle game plans, let me show you one game, for example, of one of my favorite player in this opening. Let me just choose one player. Let's just say Gukesh. So basically, Gukesh is very strong because he's very strong. And he played bishop f4 billions of times in that position. And let's say, for example, bishop f5, which is a symmetrical London. Gukesh usually plays e3 with the idea of just bringing out the bishop. e6, and now he doesn't play bishop d3, which makes sense, but he plays the neo-London system setup, which is to go c4, just putting pressure on the pawn on d5. And now, if you decide to not take and, for example, go c6, then you can just go knight c3 and not knight bd2, because since you played c4, you decided to put some pressure on the d5 pawn. So that is the small difference. But okay, bishop b1 was played in one of his games against actually Srinari something, and Figlud, which is 2700 on Lichess, which is good. And after it takes back, okay, he took with the queen, which makes sense. Now he's activating the queen. Bishop b4 happened, and he decided to go for king d1. So the London system is basically so powerful that you have the right to dislodge your king. And I think it's actually just a troll of Gukesh, but after knight e4, he just played queen c2. Now there is no more fork, and he will go bishop d3 and destroy the knight. And it is a very nice opening novelty, so if you want to surprise some players, with this new London system idea, just go for it. c6 was played, and now bishop d3, just putting pressure on the knight. Now if you move the knight again, then I would just go a3, I will go b4, at some point I will put my king on b2, put my rooks in the center, and notice how my pawn chain is basically killing it. White is just simply better. I will still put a knight there. One day I will attack you on the king side. Of course, if you want to learn how to attack on the queen side and on the king side, just subscribe to the channel and you will have access to a lot of available videos. So f5 was played, just making sure that the knight is defended, and now the same plan, a3, chasing the bishop away. Bishop d6, trading off this very, very active bishop, and now, of course, we do not trade because it would just activate the queen. So, knight e5. And now the knight is very active by playing f5. Yes, white gave away the e4 square, but for the e5 square. And it's better for white to do so because white can still go f3 and chase the knight away, and black can't go f6 chasing the e5 knight away. So in that position, white is just better. Castles. And now f3, chasing the knight away. Knight f6 because the knight was hanging, and king e2 because at some point you still want to put some rooks in the center. And what's funny is that Gukesh very rarely attacks on the king side. He prefers to outplay you on the queen side. But why? Because when you're winning on the king side, or at least when you're attacking on the king side, many players will they will know how to defend properly because everyone gets attacked billions of times on the king side. But when you attack on the queen side, players don't know how to react. It's not very usual. Only top players attack on the queen side. So the reason why you should play the London is just to win on the king side. So now knight h5 was played, rook a e1, And classical, knight d7, just chasing the knight away, king d1, knight e5, trying to trade some pieces off. Of course, if we take with the pawn, it will ruin the pawn structure. And if there was a knight on f6, it would, it could have been a good idea just to attack the knight. But now there is no knight. So bishop takes was played, bishop takes, pawn takes, and now he made a small mistake. He played d4, thinking that it was a good idea to eventually open up, the center. And of course, if white takes, then the queen is super active, the knight jumps back on f4, but Gukesh is good. So he decided to play king c1, getting out of the open file, and after takes, takes, and queen d4, Gukesh just played solidly queen d2, defending everything, and now white is just better thanks to the space advantage. This knight is pretty passive. And after rook a d8, trying to put some pressure here, Gukesh will simply but surely play rook d1, defending everything. Queen c5, trying to be aggressive, but it doesn't matter because we are so much better that we can just solidly, play whatever we want to. Now Gukesh will start to play a little bit slowly, and the rest of the game isn't really interesting. He will blunder at some point, and since I know how to teach chess, I don't want to show you something that is that was misplayed. I don't want you to think that this opening is bad just because he made a blunder in the middle game. So I will stop showing the game right here. But basically, he still has an advantage in that position, and he just, he should just go for some b4, some queen c2, queen e2, and just keep playing the position. He just has to be careful about some knight f4. So b4, g3, and there is nothing left that we can do about it, about black's position. Now, if you want to know more, you can just subscribe to the channel, share this video to everyone. If you have some more questions, just let me know in the description. I'll be more than happy to answer you. Hopefully see you in the future. Take care.